throughout our investigation of dependent origination, we've been reminding ourselves of our purpose, really not wanting this to be some intellectual exercise, some abstract Dhamma talk, but what's really going to move the heart. In Buddhist language, what's going to shift our view towards right view, samaditi, what's going to really be part of the path out of the dream into a kind of a way of being that is intrinsically skillful and wise. And because the self-obsession has dissolved along with the ignorance, is also intrinsically loving and compassionate and joyful. And our orienting is, we continue to come back to, as for those qualities of which we know, they lead to dispassion, not to passion, to being unfettered, not to being fettered, to shedding, not to accumulating, to modesty, not to self-aggrandizement, to contentment, not to discontent, to seclusion, not to entanglement, to aroused persistence, not to laziness, to being burdensome, unburdensome, not to being burdensome. And the Buddha says, you may categorically hold this is the Dhamma, this is the Vinaya, this is the teacher's instruction. And so we're talking about now practices. We're talking about a path. And my hope is that as we explore in this next little while, that you are really asking, what is the path for me? What really makes sense? What can I actually do, or what conditions can I establish in my life that incline in this wholesome direction? Because I can begin to get a sense, if I don't, the momentum of this process that's going on in body, mind, and then between us, and then in society at large, and that sustains and has this kind of a momentum. It's just, that is the stream. And when we talk about the Buddha's teachings as going against the stream, that's the stream it's going against, okay? So I want to begin by referencing what I hope will be a bridging of the dependent origination teachings we've been looking at and formal practices, and then in your life, in any given moment, practice. Okay, that's where I want to start. So, since you've got a pretty good basis in remembering that we're starting with the ignorance, the avijja. What are we talking about when we talk about practice? Well, from the standpoint of formal Buddha Dhamma, sati sampajanya. Sati is what is translated often as mindfulness or recollective awareness. Remembering and keeping in mind that foundation, whatever your foundation of mindfulness is just then. And sampajanya is the kind of the perspective or the clear knowing that comes with that informs the sati. Sati sampajanya as a construct, a larger construct. So in the moment that there's the knowing, and the sampajanya is the knowing of this Dhamma, it's the recollection, and the sati is sustaining that recollection. The mindfulness is the sustaining. And we just, in formal practice, we do in a very refined way eventually over the course of, let's say, lots of years or lots of retreat or whatever, that can get very refined in terms of seeing how the avijja is coming up and how it can be broken by the knowing and so on. But in everyday life as well. Do I remember? Sati, remembering. Do I remember? Cut the avijja right there. Cut the ignorance. when the remembering has the sampajanya, has samaditi, has perspective, has right view, understanding. You understand. What we're doing here is you and I, right now, practicing right view. This is the Eightfold Path we're engaged in. So, beginning with the ignorance, there you go. In terms of insight dialogue, it's really simple. Pause. Cut, cut, cut. We pause together, and now the power of relationship is not tying tighter the fetters, but we're unfettering together. Together we cut. Pause, cut, pause, cut together. Remembering, sati. And the energy, the virya, the right effort, Eightfold Path, the right effort comes up and is sustained between us. And in an organization, let's say, something like Metta Programs, Sangha Institute, that's our commitment. Cut. Just as a kind of remembering, but we need to build the story, the sankharas, we need to build the story where consciousness arises out of a story that says cutting is important. So we need to re-steer the Titanic, don't we? Cut. Avijja. Avijja pachaya sankhara. Out of this ignorance arises these formations. What's the practice built around sankhara? Do you know your story? Do you look at your story? Can I reveal your story to you by being a white male? You bet I can. Go ahead, react to me all you want, but just get something out of it. You can dislike me, you can hate me, you can think I'm imperious, you can think I have too much built-in privilege, but watch your story. Cut. Cut the sankhara. Don't let it feed the dream. And when it feeds the dream, wake up to it. Sankhara pachaya vijnana. Depending upon that whole momentum, that whole storyline, upon your views and the reinforcing of those views and the sustaining of those views, arises consciousness. And it's, the knowing of the world. Now it's seeing the world through the whole lens of the sankharas, of this construction processes. Can you observe in your formal practice, in your silent practice? Can you sense into? You won't get all the details. Never, the Buddha said, forget it. You'll never get to the beginning of it. Don't try. But right there, right at the tip of the moment, Sankhara pachaya vijnana. Can you know Sankhara? Can you know the arising of consciousness? Where is this cognizing? What is this experience of cognizing the world? And wow, it's already conditioned by my ignorance. Cut right there. Sankhara pachaya vijnana, pachaya nama rupa. So what is known is body-mind, this psychophysical totality. This was a central teaching for one of my teachers, Ajahn Soban. Nama rupa. What is the relationship between nama rupa? Are you actually remembering sati to investigate nama rupa? Can you do that formally in your practice? When you practice, let's say, vipassana meditation, and you get to see more and more as the sati and the samadhi, the mindfulness and concentration strengthen, can you see how the form known by the senses and the sensing, which seemed at times so disparate, are a complex arising here and now and cut through that seed from which the world is built, the body-mind. Paccaya salayatana. So this bifurcation or this multifurcation into all of the specific senses. Can you touch each sense? Can you sati, remember? With your Dhammavichaya, your investigation of phenomena, can you investigate? Seeing, and I'm going to go right to pasa, seeing contact, or hearing. Do you stay ensconced in identification, in avijja, in ignorance, in the story? Or is there just seeing? You know that famous teaching to Bahia, in the seeing there's just the seen, in the hearing there's just the heard. This is where it lives. This is it. And people want to make that almost a trivially easy teaching because it's so beautiful and easy to say, you know, it's not too many words. But look at what you're dealing with here. The avijja, paccaya, sankara, paccaya, vijnana. Vijnana. Consciousness is arising like this whole story is already made. And it's not in the seeing, there's only the seeing. In the seeing, there's the dream. Vijnana, nama, rupa, the cycle of the dream. In seeing, there's only the seen. In hearing, there's only the heard. Cognizing, there's only the cognized. But it's a practice. It's a formal practice. You can go very deep, but you can also bring it to your life. Try it with a person. Oh my God. And do you think you can do it with your social conditioning? Do you think you can see society just as the seen and the heard without all your reactions and your stories? Oh, my heart breaks. My heart just breaks. How imprisoned we are by that. And with contact, there arises feeling. Always. Poof, contact, feeling. Vedana. Vedana nupassana. That's the vipassana meditation based on the foundation of Vedana, feeling. Pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant. Is it worldly? Is it unworldly? The arising of it, the cessation of it. That's a practice. It's a real practice. It's a formal practice, but you can bring it into your life. Vedana. I'll tell you, with illness, strong illness and strong discomfort, you want to have a basis of practicing with Vedana. I'll tell you right now. Do your work now while you still have time. You understand what I'm saying? And the Vedana arising with contact with another person or multiple people, can you do the work right there? Vedana. Vedana nupassana, whether it's some sitting in a hall with a bunch of other people, most of them white, meditating with Vedana nupassana, that's great. Sitting in an office with 3 other people, or in a Skype or Zoom or other teleconference setting with multiple people. Vedana nupassana. Pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant. Almost all of it is going to be worldly, pleasant or unpleasant. The unworldly comes up out of usually stronger meditation. Meaning, you know, all this rapture and joy and all that stuff. And we could go from the feeling, of course, directly to the tanha, the hunger, the thirst. Now, many of you have done contemplations with tanha, with retreats with me and with others. Maybe you've studied it as well. But is it a practice? Do you understand that tanha arises based on the conditions of feeling? feeling that's rooted in ignorance, cut the ignorance, cut the contact that is based on ignorance, cut the feeling based on ignorance, and you cut the engine of craving. In that moment, maybe you haven't seen through the whole system. Maybe it's not all collapsing yet. Sorry. It will. And of course, out of the clinging, that energy, the energy of clinging arises on the electrical power of the tanha, of the thirst, applying itself across the battery poles, the electrical poles of this life to create the gripping of the robot arm onto phenomena. It's like this. And the dream gets stronger, the dream gets real, and out of that clinging, paccaya, bhava, I am. Now, these are practices. You can do these practices in a formal, individual practice, and as you know, you can powerfully investigate together, what is this tanha? What is this vedana? What is this gripping? What is the nature of it? How does it lead to this becoming? What is my experience now? Am I? Am I am? It's practice. Can you do this in the office? Can you do this in your family? Well, the power of the sankharas, the momentum, all the action that I have to take. I have to get the peas and bananas on the table. Not easy. No one said it was. It's a gradual path. It's a gradual path, but you can cut it. You can cut it anywhere. You can cut it. Right effort, diligence, persistence, patience, resolve. Or suffer continually, endlessly, birth after birth after birth. And just to finish, the clinging, the becoming, the birth, the enfleshment of it, birth, I am. Can you look at your enfleshment moment by moment? Can you do this in, let's say, vipassana, formal practice, either in the kaya nupassana, the awareness of the body, or the forming of the whole through the dhamma nupassana, the phenomenal experience, through the lens of birth and suffering. Of course, we know suffering is a practice, don't we? I'm not going to even go into it. You guys know it so well. Dukkha. Cut. Where can you cut? So this points to the path. These are practices. But what is what is the nature of the constant reforming of greed, hatred, and delusion? Take greed, hatred, and delusion as your practice. Am I grabbing and holding and wanting the world in this self-obsession that comes out of bhava, out of becoming? What do you think greed has its basis in? In becoming. If there's no you in the center, why would you hold on to anything? So what's the result of non-greed? Generosity. Everything flows through you. Generosity is not some sort of clip-on, like a clip-on tie. Generosity is the outflow and the practice of leading to the outflow of the world moving through you. It's an intimacy with the world that is so not separated in self that there's nothing to impede the flow of giving, of dana. So greed, hatred, and delusion can be your basis. Or your practice could just be the chaga, the generosity. Or perhaps we could ask about this formal structure of the factors of awakening, which one explores, we've explored many times in detail, but when you develop the mindfulness, the investigation, the energy, and so on, all the way through to the concentration and equanimity, you're practicing to refine the mind, to prepare the conditions for the cutting anywhere when you have enough power in the factors of awakening, the bhujanga. It's really strong stuff. It's like sulfuric acid to the infrastructure of becoming. The cell dissolves. What about the spiritual faculties? It's just another construct that can help us, that can give us a doorway into, how do I actually do this? What's going on? How do I assess where I am? Where do I put my focus? Mindfulness needs to be cultivated, but we begin with saddha, confidence, faith. We balance that with wisdom. Sometimes we're just confident. We don't really understand so well. Sometimes we really get it. Energy being balanced with concentration. Sometimes there's the fire. Sometimes there's the stilling. And then the mindfulness that helps steer. These are the spiritual faculties. It's another way of saying, okay, I'll practice with that. If I practice with that, will that support the arising of shedding, not accumulating, of modesty, not self-aggrandizement? Well, you have a way through paticca samuppāda of understanding how that happens. When you know that you can cut anywhere, the spiritual faculties, you understand, how is that going to help me cut? How is seeing greed, hatred, and delusion and so on going to help me cut? Then you see, yes, these practices lead towards what we've identified as wholesome, as liberating. But the queen, the king, the emperor of paths is just the Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path. Why is it noble? Because it gets the whole thing. It's got the overview. It's noble. It's ennobling. It sees the whole thing, this path. That's why you start in the Eightfold Path with samadhi, right view. You understand, and that's what we're doing here. Let's understand. And when there's the experiential right view, not the conceptual, but the true ditti, the true shift of perspective, then that shift of perspective creates changing of the direction of the heart. I don't want to stay entranced. I don't want to stay enfleshed in my suffering. And I don't want to create so much suffering for you. I'm so sorry. I feel shame and remorse, hiri and ottappa. I can practice with the hiri and the ottappa, with the sense of, oh God, I really blew it and it really hurts. I don't want to do that again. Looking to the past and knowing the hurt, the harm you've caused, looking to the future and not wanting to do it again. This is a practice too. But you see this. Humbly, you see this. And you're motivated. So the Eightfold Path is, covering, and this shift of intention says, what's the direction of the path? I have experience of the beauty. I have experience of the liberative process. In as far as I have that experience, I trust that experience. That's important. Gives you the energy to move forward, the confidence, the saddha to move forward. And the right action, right speech, right living, right livelihood. These are the bread and butter, the flesh and blood of the path. If you don't see it in action, if you don't see it and hear it in speech and livelihood, let there be doubt. Not just in yourself, but in others. You should be assessing me, and everybody else, not with cruelty, but just to know that it's all one path. Not to look for perfection, good Lord, but just to say, yeah, okay, so this being also functions sometimes from ignorance. I feel compassion for that. But I'm not going to follow the ignorance. A good friendship, a kalyana mitta, will work with you. And as a community of kalyana mitta, we form and orient towards the Eightfold Path. Our good friendships help us remain with right speech and right action. It's not easy. And same with the right effort, mindfulness, and concentration. And if we understand something of the challenge of this trance, of this dream, maybe we can begin to understand something of why a formal practice is important. In Insight Dialogue, why does it matter that we develop these meditative qualities of mind? Well, maybe you understand now. The speed, the automatic nature, the constant reinforcing of the trance internally in these loops and between us means that without the mindfulness, without the investigation, energy, and concentration, we won't be able to catch it. It's like we're doing a race against Speedy Gonzales or the Flash or something. We don't even see the guy. He's so fast. And that's the me formation. And how do we stay on track? We've got the wisdom element. This is just pointing. Everything I'm saying is not true. Everything I'm saying is constructed. The Dhamma is constructed, but it is such a brilliant construction with, in my experience, such veridicality, such conformity to how things actually are. So I stay on track. Even when I begin to get confused, I have a reference point that is outside the system of my trance. Do you understand that? The Dhamma sits outside the system of your personal trance. This is really important. It stands outside the system of the social, cultural trance. This is really important. And on the relational piece, we've seen the power of relationship to reinforce, accelerate, amplify, strengthen the unwholesome. It's exactly that power that we're invoking in relational practice, that same power moving towards strengthening the meditative element, strengthening the focus on the wisdom element and revealing the wisdom element in real time. And we need it, don't we? Don't we need it? Don't we need that cutting quality? And we can't do it all alone. We just can't. So we enter the challenge and we enter the opportunity of doing it together. Spiritual friendship is the entirety of the holy life. It's not an empty saying. It often gets passed along like, okay, let's be buddies. Let's be Dhamma buddies. And it's kind of, I'll share my green tea with you. This is a powerful, powerful teaching on the raw energy that comes with interpersonal contact and social contact, and the aiming it towards the good. Kalyana mitta, the spiritual friendship, the friendship towards liberation. Whether it's an organizational structure, a family structure, and bless our dear, sweet, hurting hearts, a social structure. I don't know, I'm not a utopian. We do the best we can. But this is our work. Clip, 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 contact, feeling, craving, clinging, becoming, sankharas, clip, 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 clip. Relaxing. Touching the awareness. The awareness doesn't participate in the clipping or the forming. It just gets confused. It gets clouded. The mind is essentially luminous. So we recognize the clouds, the cloud-making machine. We begin to deprive it of its fuel. We live wisely. What does love look like in this cycle? How do we reinforce that love and shift the sankharas towards kindness and compassion? What's the natural flow of compassion when the self is not in the way? How do I live to invite that possibility, to invoke what is already latent in this human potential? So I'll close just by reminding us, again, thanks for your patience. As for those qualities of which you may know, and please consider everything we've been touching, the practices we've been touching, everything. Your potential, our potential, the human potential. These qualities lead to dispassion, not to passion. To being unfettered, not to being fettered. To shedding, not to accumulating. To modesty, not self-aggrandizement. To contentment, not to discontent. To seclusion, not to entanglement. To persistence, not to laziness. To being unburdensome, not to being burdensome. You may categorically hold, this is the Dhamma. This is the Vinaya. This is the teacher's instruction. So thank you, friends. May everything that we've done together, all of our time together, serve for the freeing of our hearts, the awakening of the heart. And may this also touch in this moment and all future moments the liberation of all beings who similarly suffer in the trance. May they all be free from suffering. May all beings be at peace. May there be peace. May there be peace. May there be peace. Thanks.